Welcome to our weekly 3-minute therapy podcast with me. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, a clinical psychologist, and my co-host, Mick Berry. Hi, Mick. Thanks for joining us. And we focus on rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT, which was devised by Albert Ellis in the 1950s and has written about 80 books about the subject. And REBT says that it's never our emotions that come from situations, but rather it's our thinking about situations. And that's not only our emotions, but our behaviors also come from our thinking. And when we have disturbed emotions or behaviors, it comes from thinking in terms of demands, musts, shoulds, supposed tos, have tos. I must do well and get approval, or else I'm no good. You must treat me well, or else you're no good. And my life must go well, or else it's no good. Okay, and today we have a repeating guest, Nelson Ugbogo from Nigeria. And Nelson, you wanted to discuss, maybe give us some ideas or ask questions about a subject, which was how to have a happier, healthier marriage. Is that correct, Nelson?
Yes.
Yeah. And what spurred you to suggest that subject?
Personal experience is part of the reason I wanted us to touch on marriage. And in my part of the world, marriage is a very important experience for many people. So that's the reason I think it's something to look at, because I personally had some challenges in my marriage, and it was when I had to divest myself from some concepts. Let me give examples. For example, the way I perceive my wife, I use this temperament model. You know, there's this popular temperament model that people are sanguine, people are either extroverts or introverts, you know. Then between that two, you could go further and subdivide. Some are extroverts, some are super extroverts. Then some are introverts, some are super introverts. And there are names for these categories. For example, if you are an introvert, they say you are melancholy. You know, if you're an extrovert, they say you are sanguine. It's a very popular concept here in Nigeria and most part of Africa. So we perceive people that, okay, this person is a melancholy, and we use that model to predict behavior and what have you. So some people are choleric. You know, when you say somebody is a choleric, it means the person is he has this driver type of personality or temperament. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to paint.
Yeah, I get a sense of that, but how does that relate to having a happier, healthier marriage?
Okay, it has everything to do with marriage, because some people are super extroverts. If you're married to somebody that is a super introvert, there might be differences of how you guys relate with people and relate with things. Do you understand? For example, there's this popular author, Tim LaHaye. He wrote a book, Why You Do the Things You Do. It's a very popular book. So he propounded that temperament model of how people behave. And when you read that book, you get into predictive mode. When you see people, you just, okay, this person is a sanguine. That person is a melancholy. This person is a phlegmatic. So that predictive mode makes you perceive people and predict what they will do, how they'll behave tomorrow, how they'll behave in the future. So for me, sometimes I perceive my wife as somebody that can't learn, somebody that doesn't want to change, because I'm coming from this temperament model. Do you understand? And that contributes to the friction we usually have in terms of disagreements. So, but when I dump that model of seeing my wife that way and seeing myself that way, I experience tremendous happiness.
Yeah,
So that is where yes, that's where, for example, now some people will say things like, I wish I have a personality transplant. I don't know if you've heard something like that.
yeah. No. Nelson, why don't we give Mick a chance?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that relates to something I've heard with REBT. Now, I'm not married, but I do have many people, many friends, and I've had relationships, though I'm not in one now. And I know that in order to get along with other people and be happy with them, it's very important for me to remember that all human beings are fallible. And when somebody I'm interacting with is doing something I don't like, if I think that they're being irrational, or if they actually, if I can objectively see they are being irrational, if I'm able to say, well, there's no reason they should behave differently than they do. We get into trouble when we start making demands on other people. This person should behave differently. Even when people are behaving irrationally, there's no reason they shouldn't behave irrationally. And in order for me to be more patient and not get myself upset, it's important for me to remember that other people have tendencies to be fallible. And when they're behaving that way, or in a way that I think they're being fallible, if I can accept that they have the freedom to do that, not demand that they be otherwise, then I don't upset myself. So I know that in Michael, you can tell me what you think about this. In interacting with other people, it is highly useful for me to remember that other people, not to place demands on other people to be any particular way whatsoever, including them being irrational, as long as they're not physically harming me, however irrational they may be, it doesn't hurt me. It may be inconvenient. I might not like it a lot. I might not like it a lot, but it still doesn't hurt me.
Yes, I think that keeping that in mind is important in having a happy, healthy marriage. And what another way to put what you're saying, Mick, is unconditional other acceptance. Accept your partner as the imperfect human they are, who's going to act imperfectly, so you don't get yourself angry or have disturbed conflicts with your partner. So that's an important principle in a happy, healthy marriage and in happy, healthy relationships as well. Yeah, Mick?
Yeah, and I wanted to say accepting another person does not mean that you just don't make any requests for them to behave differently. You're still free to request for somebody else to behave differently, but accepting that it's their choice and they might not do what you'd like them to do.
That's right. Yes.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as a firstborn personality or a firstborn temperament?
I don't think the evidence is great for that. I think there's some weak evidence for that, but I don't think it's very strong. And also, that is just, even if it were the case, it's just a tendency people have, and people can work against their tendencies if they don't like their behavior.
Okay, can you speak to this temperament model I talked about? You know, according to that model, they said if you have a certain temperament, you are prone to depression or you are prone to anger. For example, if you are a choleric, for example, you are prone to anger. You have anger issues. You have short temper. If you are a melancholic, for example, you're prone to depression. You know, I don't know if you are familiar with that temperament model. If you
Yeah,
are,
I've heard of it, but But as you used a good word there, Nelson, and that is prone. You could be prone to certain things. I was, for the first 18 years of my life, I was prone to depression. And then Albert Ellis, my therapist at the time, helped me tremendously in that by showing me how I caused my depression and how I could change my thinking. So I think the bottom line is no matter what temperament you fall in, you can work hard at changing it. So I think that's the key there. There are some basic principles that you can use in a marriage to help improve it. And one is give your partner positive feedback. Look for things that your partner does that you like and you think are positive, and then give them copious positive feedback. People always like to get approval, acceptance, and positive statements about themselves. So that's something important to look at. Another thing that's important in a marriage is to state your preference. I prefer you wash the dishes after you use them, not you should wash the dishes, you have to. So always think in terms of preferences. I prefer X. What do you think? Mick?
I was going to say regarding you were prone to depression. I think through practice, it's possible to reverse it. And we could even say now you're prone to thinking rationally and to feeling adaptable to situations rather than prone to depression. I do think, Nelson, I agree with you. Some people are prone to certain ways, but unfortunately, we cannot change somebody else. They have to do it themselves. But if they would like to change, they can put in the effort and become prone to being another way. If I'm prone to anger, I could be prone to tranquility if I practice it enough, but it will take practice to reverse it.
Yeah. Another principle in having a good marriage is what I call be forward looking, not backward looking. If you have a disagreement with your partner, don't argue about what they did in the past or what you think they did, because then that could just get into an argument. You did this. No, I didn't. You did this, but you did that, things like that. So being forward looking means state your preference, what you would like the person to do in the future, rather than you never pick up your clothes after you take them off at night. Just say, I prefer you pick up your clothes in the future after you take them off at night. So that's another principle.
Yeah.
Also, Mick?
Well, I just wanted to say there are many ways to word I prefer. You can, so you don't have to just mimic the word prefer. You could say I'd like you to, or could you, ask somebody if they could. So we don't have to be locked into the word prefer. There are many other synonymous phrases to express that.
Yeah. Or I desire. Another principle for a good marriage is what I call have a regularly scheduled relationship discussion, which I have my couples do. And that is on a regular basis, sometimes once a week or twice a week, just say over dinner, have a discussion about how the relationship has been going and what you would like in the future, or how you can continue doing what you've been doing that's been positive. So that is another principle there. So those are some principles, practical principles, and principles related to your emotions and behaviors you can use to have a good relationship with your partner. Any final words, Nelson or Mick?
Yeah, I wanted to say that as we ourselves are more rational, it does tend to, or we have a much better chance of inspiring somebody else to be rational. It always takes two people to have an argument. And if somebody else is being irrational, but I'm being rational, they're more prone to listen to me. And if it's somebody I'm married to or spending a lot of time with, they can see that I'm gaining in my rationality and I'm gaining in my enjoyment of life and my ability to deal with difficult situations. And there's a pretty decent chance they're going to want to have a piece of it and start asking me, how is it that I'm achieving that? And then I can share with them while I work on getting rid of my demands. So
Yeah, I
that
think, yeah.
inspires somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And in my book, 3 Minute Therapy, I have a chapter on relationships. And one of the aspects is what you're describing, Mick. I call that vicious and delicious circles. So if you're positive toward your partner, then it's more likely your partner will act in kind and be positive toward you. Whereas if you're negative, critical, then you're more likely to get negativity and criticism in response.
And I just wanted to say we can only really have full influence on ourselves, and even then we can't be completely rational. But what we can do if I'm interacting with somebody else, the more rational I am, the better my possibilities of interacting with them in a friendly and productive and nice way.
Yeah,
So
and the more like, sorry,
myself as much as I can is the best thing I can do.
and the more likely you are to enjoy the relationship
Yeah.
when you respond that way. Okay, we just have another minute or two. So just to wrap up, I'd like to thank you, Nelson, for joining us once again.
Very
And I'd like
much.
to,
Yeah, nice to see you, Nelson. You're
yeah,
looking good, man.
yeah, you're looking good. You look better each time.
You said?
And what's that?
I didn't catch what you said.
No, I said you look better each time. And
Okay, thank you very much.
you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Chris Rossini, our technical engineer. Comment below if you have thoughts or questions or disagreements about what you saw, and give us a thumbs up if you got something out of it. Suggest subjects for our future podcasts. We always appreciate that. And volunteers, Nelson has. And subscribe to the 3 Minute Therapy podcast to do what, Mick?
I forget. Oh, wait, I remembered to stay on the rational side of life.